Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor of the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the BAM with Lori and Jenny. Today, we are so excited because we have our first international guest on the show, Kim. Kim is an international fitness guru and weightlifting champion. She resides in Spain, but is from Germany. After overcoming some significant health challenges, including being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, Kim has found strength and empowerment through weightlifting. And now she coaches other midlife women to achieve their fitness goals. Kim shares with us her inspiring journey and her insights on the importance of movement, nutrition, and community in supporting women's health and wellness. Such a treat to have you on the show today, Kim. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to chatting with you too.
Wonderful. So why don't you take us back to the beginning and your journey of what led you to get into the health and the wellness field? I'd be really interested to know what sparked your interest in that.
Yeah, sure thing. So I used to be a journalist and traveled the world with my husband and the 3 kids. He had like the steady job and, like the career, and I was the freelancer starting from scratch everywhere we went. It was okay also because I had more freedom, when we lived in the Middle East and I could talk to more people because I had less eyes on me and stuff. So that was quite okay. But, like from a prestige point of view, and of course, from the kind of money I was making, it was less rewarding. And then I got a job offer to work in Berlin for the Newswire. I had been working before I got married, and my husband got an opportunity to work in Berlin too. So we moved to Germany, which is my home country. But still, I'm from the north, and Berlin is different. I don't know if must be the same in the US. Like the regions, they play a big role.
Yes.
So it didn't feel like home, like totally. But we came to Berlin, and I had my 3 kids. The oldest was like 10. I had a full-time job again. And I felt great about this. I think this freelancing had sort of dealt a little bit of a blow to my self-esteem. And then when you accompany your husband and you have kids, people view you just as, the wife or the mom. And even though I was working, I didn't have like the status to sort of prove that I wasn't just the wife. So when we got to Berlin, I thought, wow, this is it. I have made it. I have a career, and I had a good job and full time, and I have kids, and everything is fine. And I have sort of proven that you can have it all, because I was still brought up with this idea: you can either have a family and be a mom, or you can have a career. And when I was a teenager, I swear to God, a career woman, that was an insult. Mm. Germany is culturally and socially very conservative, I think, to this day. But I grew up like in the 60s, 70s, and it was clear, sometimes friends asking, do you want to be a career woman? So I was like, really crazy stuff. And I wanted to prove that you could have both. And then one day I was picking up my kids from school, and I was seeing double.
Oh, wow.
That was so scary. You get a little bit of a niggle in your knees. I was 45 at the time. So, maybe you have a little back pain or whatever happens to you when you're in your 40s. You could sort of ignore it and think, oh, come on, it's just going to go away. But when you see double, no way.
It's scary.
No way.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the doctor. They sent me to the hospital. I spent 6 weeks there.
Oh my God. Was that the only symptom, Kim, that you had? Was all of a sudden you just started seeing double? Or
no. That was just the beginning.
Okay.
Because I went to a hospital, and then I lost the control of my legs over the 3 weeks in hospital. I could not wiggle a toe. I was totally paralyzed from the hip downwards. And they were not sure how they wanted to call this. They were pretty clear that this was something autoimmune and that my immune system was going crazy and attacking like mostly the sensitive nerves in my body. But because, seeing double belongs to one syndrome and then the paralysis belongs to another syndrome. So they couldn't really tell me what it was. I got home after 6 weeks because like 3 weeks in, I was totally paralyzed. They gave me all kinds of shots and infusions, trying everything. One of those must have worked because the use of my legs came back very, very slowly. I got home just before Christmas in a wheelchair.
How many kids did you have at this time?
3. I had them
all 3 at this time.
And I was lucky because my mom lived in our house and looked after them, took them to school, did everything. And because we were nomads, I had spent every summer with my kids in my parents' home to give them some kind of anchor or port of call. So they knew my mom well. They had a really good connection. And it was, when I talk to them about this now, my kids, they don't have like a big sort of traumatizing memory of this. I think it went okay for them. So that was good. It was also such a big lesson for moms who, everyone out there, if you think that you are irreplaceable, sorry, you're not. I was gone from one day to the next and the world kept turning. So I came home for Christmas. There was a tree, there were presents, everything, and I hadn't done any of it. So
how old were they at that point?
I think my oldest was 10. My daughter was 8, and the youngest, he must have been about 7.
So Kim, let's go back to that. So you get out of the hospital, your mom's taking care of your kiddos. What had they told you at that point going home?
They thought it was very likely that it was a Guillain-Barré, which is a syndrome. It's something that I think hits a lot of soldiers. And thinking back now, with my job, and it was shift work that I did and me trying to prove that I could do it all, I think I was soldiering along a little bit. But I definitely also have like autoimmune problems in my genes. I have a great grandfather who had MS. I have second cousins who have MS. But at the time, it was just this syndrome, nothing else. And the docs, one of the docs, I remember very clearly him telling me, "Oh, you won't get MS. You're too old for that." And that sort of reassured me. But lo and behold, like 2 years later, I had my first episode of MS and was then afterwards diagnosed. So got out of hospital, started to, first in the wheelchair, then 2 crutches, then 1 crutch. And I remember my kids had to take a train to school. When they came back, when I could walk a bit again, I went to pick them up at the station and, first with 2 crutches, then with 1. And I remember one day I picked them up and we went into a coffee shop right next to the train station, to have some snack for them. And I had a coffee and I went to the counter with my crutch. And when I came back with the coffee, I left the crutch at the counter and
oh, wow.
Okay, this means it's okay now. You can sort of, you can walk again. So I got treatment for a year still. And then I was given a clean bill of health. And I said, okay, you're fine. This is a one-off, this syndrome. And
what is the treatment for that? What did they do to treat you?
They gave me something that is called immune globulins, I think.
Okay.
Is that called like this in English? It's hard. It's even hard to pronounce in German. So I'm not going to pretend.
It sounds right to me. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll go with it.
So it's just to sort of balance out your immune system, I suppose, and give you like send some good guys down there to stop this erroneous behavior of your immune system, which is it's just making mistakes, which is something that also makes you feel like, your body is sort of betraying you. I mean, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? And you don't feel anything. You just feel normal. And then your immune system is at work, like gnawing on your nerves. It's quite frightening.
Crazy. So, and then how did the MS? So then you recovered from that kind of situation, and then the MS hit a couple of years later.
Yes, we had moved again to France, And I felt my left hand going numb one day in November, I think. It was dark and gray. I can remember that, not only in my mind when that happened, but also outside. Tests, and then they said, this is different. This is not like the syndrome. This is actually an attack of your immune system on the white matter in your nerves. And if it happens again, then you're officially an MS patient. And I hope that wouldn't happen again, like for a year. And then it came back. It was very mild. I only noticed this because I did a weird yoga pose on the bedroom floor, and I felt my spine tingling, and I knew right away this wasn't good.
Oh my gosh. So that was how many years ago from today that you experienced all this?
That was 12 years ago. I mean, this relapse, then, the tests and the checkups, and then the official declaration that, you have MS and you need lifelong treatment. That was in 2013.
How did you respond to that? Like mentally, how did you feel about that?
I thought that I felt like I was surrounded by darkness.
Yeah.
Because when you've been through this first thing, and then you get the second chance at life, and it changed me a lot, and I was so grateful for everything. I actually came to be grateful for being able to do the dishes. I know it's hard to believe, but when you're paralyzed in a hospital bed, this is all that you dream of, to do your chores again without anything. So it felt very dark, very scary, and I forced myself not to look ahead. If you look into the future with an illness like that, you're going to be scared out of your wits.
So living in the moment, you really were like, okay, I'm here. I can do this today. Let's focus on day by day. Was it at that moment that it sparked your interest? So before that, were you actively kind of into health and wellness, working out, lifting weights, or was this kind of after you experienced this, it kind of kickstarted like, wow, I really want to do everything I can to get my body in a great place?
I had been a gym goer, loved the gym, used mostly the machines. I loved running too. I mean, I'm not a natural runner, but I like to go for a jog and felt good afterwards and everything. So that was a part of my life. Exercise was something that always helped me anchor myself. Also, when we moved around those countries, you sign up for a gym and you meet people and you have like some kind of routine that you can keep up when everything around you changes. But when that doctor said, you need lifelong treatment and you have MS, the first thing was that I fought him on the lifelong treatment. And I said, why? He said, yes, that's because what we do, we have to protect you. When it comes back, it can do so much damage. And because my second relapse was so much milder and hardly noticeable, I said, come on, maybe I'm already getting better. This was like nothing compared to the first, because my left hand is actually numb to this day. But he wouldn't hear any of it. And he was not used to someone talking back at him at all.
Yeah.
He was just writing the prescriptions, sending me on my way, and say, hey, wait a minute. Can we please talk about this?
Yeah.
And I grilled him for close to an hour. He was patient at the beginning. He became a little bit impatient then. So I had to give in, and I asked him, can I exercise? Because I had this had been my anchor, my sort of big point of stability in my life. And he said, yeah, okay, but you want to be careful. And to this day, I'm really upset about this answer because it's so non-committal. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't really know what exercise does or doesn't. So I don't want to tell you no, but I don't want to be responsible for anything. So you be careful. I'm the doctor. Yeah. You go exercise, but be careful.
You sound very old school, this doctor. Sounds like he's very...
But Lori, remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I went to a doctor when I was going to the doctor for the osteoporosis, and I asked them about exercise, and the answer I received, and this is a young doctor, and she gave me a good answer, but she said, honestly, we don't have a lot of research on exercise and how it interacts with this, because besides weight bearing exercise, but there's not a lot of long-term studies because they can't get people to commit to an exercise routine, which I thought was so sad. So to me, that means that they just don't have enough research because most people won't do that. They won't exercise regularly.
Yeah. Maybe they're
That's
scared or
shocking.
nervous.
Yeah.
There's also this other thing that, like, especially exercise research for decades has been done mostly on men.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think they have new rules and regulations, like for grants for the research and stuff. They require you to have women in there. But I remember that because there's a strength coach, an American strength coach I love, and he loves like standards, and he published like a thing like strength standards for men, and it's like you have to bench press 2 or 3 times your body weight, and 3 times squat 3 times your body weight, and then you're like an exceptionally strong man. And I went to a workshop with him and asked him, what about women? Give me a strength standards for women.
Yeah.
I want to know if I'm strong. And he said, we don't have any data.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast. Do you know who Dave Asprey is?
That somehow rings a bell, that name.
Yeah, he did. He's done a bunch of basically biohacking. So he's done a bunch of stuff with exercise, diet, different supplements and things like that. But he was on an interview and he was talking about basically this is what you need to do. And he was prescribing all these different things. And it was very clear to me, and he was being interviewed by a woman, but it was very clear to me during that interview that he had not ever thought about how this would affect a woman. He was talking about intermittent fasting and all these things, right? So I actually reached out to the woman who interviewed him and I said, I got frustrated listening to this interview. It was totally geared towards men. Her audience is female. Yeah. It was totally geared towards men. Has he done any research on women? And she said, I don't think he has. And I'm like, he has a wife who's middle-aged. So it just baffles me that they go out and talk about like, here's what you need to do. And they're ignoring 51% of the population?
Yeah. And it happens with all kinds of studies. I mean, I think cardiovascular disease is the number 1 killer of women right now in the US. Studies about this, I mean, look back a few years, there's hardly any women in there. That's like, that means that also all the medications, everything, it's just all geared towards men. It's absolutely crazy. This thing about intermittent fasting, you know what I found out? It blows my mind. Most of the research on intermittent fasting is done with mice. So that's already like, a big caveat. Right. But then it turns out it's done on male mice.
Oh my
mostly. God. Can you believe this? And it's really not the same, especially with something like fasting, because the female body is so sensitive to energy restriction. Yeah. And when I heard that, I think I was listening to a podcast and walking in the park, and I nearly screamed because that is so crazy. And then all these women, thinking, oh my God, this is my solution, and then getting so frustrated and stuff not working, and it's really quite frustrating.
Yeah, I tried it and I have thyroid stuff. I was going through menopause. I felt so miserable. I was like, this isn't worth it. So
I need to eat. I don't know about you ladies, but I get very hangry if I don't eat. I have to have breakfast. I have to continuously like fuel my body throughout the day. I'm sure other, women, once you get into a habit of fasting, or if it works for you, that's awesome. Yeah. But for me, my body's like, nope, you need to, especially when you are going to the gym and lifting weights and doing cardiovascular exercise, you need to fuel your body. And talking about let's go ahead, a good transition, I think, into the fitness training and how you yourself got into weightlifting. Just the importance of being able to fuel your body and really build that muscle mass. And, your body lets you know when you need to eat that food.
Yes, absolutely. And that was something that changed when I had my diagnosis, because luckily I talked to a nurse after I talked to that doctor who said exercise is great for MS patients because it makes you fatigue resistant. And, because you stress your body with exercise, and then it learns to come back and recover and come back stronger. So I armed myself with a book, one of the first that said women should lift heavy. And I started training, and I also changed my eating. And it was because the whole thing, and it changed from what I did before in training also, because before when I worked out, because I was hoping, to get a certain body shape or to control my weight or, to look a certain way. And it was not going through the motions. It was an important factor of my life, but like the purpose was like sort of, be healthy and look good. And that was it. This time, and because I had experienced also this total helplessness in hospital, I just wanted to become physically strong. Yeah. I wanted to become badass strong.
Yeah, I love it.
And yes, and the food plays a big role. And so my eating changed also in a way where I thought, what do I need to build muscle? What do I need to fuel that training? How do I build myself up? How do I build muscle? And that changes your outlook in a really liberating way, because it's not, you can't eat this and this makes you fat and this is not good, like don't eat these foods and this is a bad food. No, it's just what can I eat that will,
you get to eat more, right? I mean, to be honest, like when you're really building that muscle mass and you're working out so hard and you're really trying to gain, quality mass on your body, it allows you to eat a larger quantity of food because you have to refuel yourself.
Well, and I like you focus on macros, right? I do the same thing. And so it's I'm assuming a lot of protein.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How much protein do you take in?
I aim for 120 grams a day.
Okay.
Because I calculate it on lean body mass,
Yeah.
And this is the thing also, and there's so much confusion out there. There's so many influencers telling women you need to eat more. And, you see like super skinny women shooting videos of them eating Doritos and huge bowls of food, saying, you need to eat more. Yes. I think most people who are overweight or feel tired and heavy, they're probably malnourished, undernourished. Yeah. They need to eat more, but more of the right stuff. It's not just any old food that you need more of. You need more protein, and most women do need more protein and find it pretty hard to get the amounts that they need. You have to be super intentional and deliberate.
Yeah, it's hard to get that much protein a day. You definitely have to plan for it. It's not like I'm just going to wake up and eat my normal meals and it's going to hit that. It doesn't at all. That's a very high number and you have to be strategic. But it's very doable if you're aware with how you plan your meals.
Well, and I read too that the recommended daily allowance, I think, is it's really low. It might be like 60 grams or something like that. And that is nowhere near. Basically, you need double that for the average female, right?
I think so too. Yeah,
they're talking about like, okay, this is the minimum you should have, but if you want to like be strong and healthy, you got to double it.
Yeah.
So Kim, I want to go back real quick and just kind of loop back to when they said, you were going to have to be kind of on lifelong medication. At what point, it sounds like you're not on any kind of medication now, correct? So at what point were you able to say, I told you so, exercise is the way to go, right? Like, when did you feel comfortable and confident that like you would beat it?
I never was like smug about this. It was, I got better. Like physically, I got like really strong. And I think the mental health aspect of this plays a huge role. When you strength train, you become just, so much more confident and optimistic. You just feel like you feel more in control, of yourself, of your environment. You feel more autonomous. And I got back this feeling that I could rely on my body, which is, after this betrayal, air quotes, was a very important feeling for me. We moved to Spain, found myself a neurologist who followed me, who gave me the same treatment. It was injecting yourself 3 times a week, by the way, which is extremely unpleasant. Mm-hmm. But he saw me, and he saw me like for 2 years in a row, the way I looked, the way I moved. When I came for my checkup, he was just sort of going through the motions, walk on a line, stand on one foot, and stuff like this. And then in 2017, we wanted to go on a camping trip. We went on a camping trip in Canada. And I had my checkup just before. And I said, is there any chance that I can suspend the treatment for 3 weeks? Because we're going camping. The medication needs to be refrigerated. Take that on a plane and ask the flight attendants, can you put this in the fridge? I tried that before. They just say, no, we don't have any space. So, you feel bad. You think your medication is going bad. And then camping and injections. Somehow I thought that was going to be like so cumbersome. And I said, can I suspend for 3 weeks? And he said, you know what? If you want to stop for good, I'm going to support you.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to cry now, but I was so emotional. I said, hell yes, I can't believe it. I called my husband. And then he said I could stop my treatment. It was like I got a second chance. And I'm very grateful to this guy because he said, we're not sure right now about the effectiveness of this treatment anyways. So
wow.
I think he had, he was sort of, confident enough and open enough to say, because lots of doctors, I think, not because they're bad people, but they don't, they don't want to, they think that you can't face the truth maybe also. And maybe it would look like, oh God, we prescribe this treatment and it may have been useless. So maybe we have egg on our face and stuff. He just didn't say this. He said, research is going on. He was very up to date on the latest research. And he said, well, right now, we're not sure this is the thing. And if you have problems again and you need treatment again, it's not going to be this one. And I'm eternally grateful that he told me this because it gave me the confidence also to think that probably if I was fine, it was not because of the medication, but because of my body healing and getting better.
It sounds like a real combination of like you taking the initiative to really, stick to that health and wellness plan, and obviously the confidence that you had in, how you were feeling and, obviously getting the encouragement from the doctor saying, hey, yeah, I mean, you're doing great. Like what we're doing for you is probably not going to make a difference. Right. And him kind of owning that. That's incredible.
When you know your body too. And I think this is so important, especially as we age, but you knew your body, you knew what fuel you needed. You knew how it felt when you exercised. So, I mean, even when you said you did the yoga pose and you just felt that tiny little tingling in your spine and you knew, a lot of people wouldn't even notice that because they're not in tune or in touch with their body. So I think that probably also it helped you. It was an advantage for you,
Yes, absolutely. So the confidence is a big one.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So Kim, I have a question. So your journalism, you're a professional journalist. When did that kind of stop? And then you kind of jump full time into your current career, which is now kind of a health and wellness professional, correct? I'd like to dive more into what you have going on.
I didn't realize it at the time, but the year I stopped being a journalist and decided to go into health and wellness like full time, I'd been dreaming about this for a long time, but never dared take the plunge. That was actually the year when I was told I could stop my treatment. I think it made me so positive also about something that I really want to share. That you can really improve your quality of life like dramatically with this very super simple thing. I also, of course, have lived like we all have through the change of information over the years, and it's become just a commodity. It's not. When I started being a journalist, it was like there was a real mission that you were going out to find out what's going on in the world, make sure that you put this into like good, understandable, clear, and truthful information to allow the citizens to make informed decisions, to exercise their political rights as informed citizens, responsible citizens. And I think this has changed. Information, this mission just doesn't exist anymore. It's also because everybody can be a journalist now, and I don't mean this like in a demeaning way or anything. It's just there's so much information out there that everybody can just throw, on the internet, that it becomes very hard to distinguish between quality information and just something that someone's come up with. And I sometimes I talk to people and say, "Oh, have you heard that this thing and this?" And it's like, "Okay, and what was the source?" And then the source?
Right.
What do you mean?
Remember that whole thing, the news that's fit to print, how that's what used to actually, get printed in the newspaper. And like you said, there was a source and there was research and there was credibility. And now it's a very unfortunate thing that news is so reactive in the moment. And it's just anybody can put it up there that it's not. I actually went to college and got a degree in journalism. And, that was the fun of it, right? Like being the researcher and getting the story. And now the story is kind of lost with all that's out there.
So I was a little bit disenchanted with that already, and I think that helped me take the final step. And I really thought I was onto something with my story, and I started taking the personal trainer exams and everything, all the stuff that you need to do, even the CPR certification. Even I work online, but to keep your certification, you need the CPR and stuff. And I started like everybody who starts working with friends and family and sort of learning the ropes, I think is what you call it in English. And it's so different. You really have an impact, When you write a great story as a journalist, it's fantastic. You feel so good when everything is just right, like the lead and the conclusion, and you're sure. And I worked for newswires a lot, so you don't have a lot of space. You have to be so concise. So it's like you're like really like a wordsmith, and you're working on this. And when you get it right, it feels so good. But it's a very selfish thing because you feel good about yourself and what you wrote. And does anybody's life change because of that? I doubt it very much. It's a lot of like peer thing where everybody says, "Oh wow, you wrote a great story there," and stuff. And it's rewarding, it's fun, it's gratifying. But when I see the smile now on a woman's face when she gets her first push-up or something like this, or I get a message like, "Oh my God, I feel so strong now." It's just, it's to feel like you have an impact and something. You just change one person's life and you feel great. And that you're fulfilling a purpose, and not just having fun writing stories.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
How do you coach women? Do you only coach women, by the way?
I have coached men, and I can do that. But I specialize in midlife women because there's a special set of problems and obstacles that I've sort of learned to address. And so, I mean, if any man's listening to us and he thinks he wants to work with me, we can talk about that. But my specialty is like really, midlife women and help them get out of this situation. So many feel stuck. And that's something, I know how to change that.
So do you do in person or do you do virtual or both?
It's just only online, only virtual.
Okay.
So do you have classes? Do you do classes or just one-on-one personal training and coaching? What are your kind of your offerings for your clientele?
Yeah, it's one-on-one where I design a specific workout for the person. I think this is really the centerpiece, because when you're not 20 anymore, I mean, even when you're 20, but when you're not 20 anymore, even more so, you have a body history. You might have high mileage knees or stiff shoulders or achy joints, all kinds of, everybody's different. And that's also the problem. There's so many really great exercise programs out there. They're really good. You can get stuff for free that is, like well programmed and well thought through, but it's just not for midlife women. It's for younger people, and a lot of them are for men, as we mentioned before. Yeah. So this is something I'm like really very particular about. I want to see, what the status is of my client, is how strong she is, how mobile she is. So we assess her very, very thoroughly, and then I design a program that is just right, just challenging enough, not overwhelming, make sure she doesn't get hurt, but make sure she doesn't get bored too, because,
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, I mean, I think it's great that we do have research, it's been done on men. I mean, at least it's somewhere to start. So like, I've read all the books, I've done all that stuff, but now when you get to a certain point and you understand, like, you got to lift, you got to eat right, you got to do all those things, then you do want to target it to, where am I in my life? Like, that's great. I know the basics now, but I need to know, how do I optimize my body in my time of life? And, you and I talked a little bit, we all talked before we started recording, but menopause really throws a wrench in that, because all the things that I had done for all those years that worked, all of a sudden didn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it leads to this feeling of being stuck, for example, like, oh my God, whatever I do, it doesn't work, nothing changes. And then when people say, oh, it's hormones, there's nothing you can do, this is like so disempowering.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you either take a medication, take HRT, and I have nothing against HRT. I think if it's like prescribed in a very diligent way, it's a wonderful thing. But actually, there are so many parts in this equation that depend on you and your lifestyle, and that you have control over. And it's hardly ever mentioned. And so many women go to see their doctor and they say, oh my God, I feel horrible. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't sleep. I feel brain fog. I'm not motivated. I have low moods. And then so many doctors will just say, oh, I'm going to prescribe an antidepressant.
Instead of saying, hey, what are you doing for your health and wellness?
Yeah.
And, how can you, like you said, take the initiative? I think that's what's so great about what you do, Kim, is not only are you, giving exercise programs, but you're that coach, you're that example, you're that, hey, that motivator, right? And I think that's so empowering to help women be like, yeah, try this and see if it works. Don't be scared. Don't just take a medication and hope it works, but, the exercise is a huge component of getting over that roadblock and seeing the other side of it.
My friend just went to the doctor 2 days ago for her hormones, she, menopause stuff. And that's exactly what they did. They gave her an antidepressant. And she's like, I don't want to take this. And with no explanation, by the way. And I know that there are some antidepressants that do help with like hot flashes and stuff like that, but there's no conversation about, we can try this. You should also do these things. Like, to your point, it's one part of the equation.
Yeah. And I think it's also because doctors, first of all, they don't have time, to really talk to people. And I don't think it's part of their training and education. I think they have like 6 hours of nutrition and maybe 2.5 hours of exercise. And we really know this now. We know all the effects of exercise. And it's, you cannot be healthy without moving your body daily. Yeah. That is just a fact. You will not be healthy. You can treat symptoms with HRT or whatever, you can treat symptoms. But I'm, saying this all the time, our bodies are optimized to be moving. So it means it's not like we're living our lives and, sitting at the computer and driving everywhere. And then if we want to be a little bit healthier, we start moving and, we get better. No, if we do not move daily, we are deteriorating. That's just a fact.
I love that. That has like been my mantra forever. Like, our bodies are meant to move. Like, yes, the world makes it more challenging because, you sit in a car, you get out, you go to your office or whatever it is. And now technology makes it even easier to be lazy. And it's like, we're meant to walk. We're meant to do these functional activities. And it's just so sad that our world makes it challenging for us just to do what our bodies are meant to do.
Well, going back to your point about being intentional and planning, just like the protein, you have to be intentional about it now. And you didn't have to previously.
Yeah.
But it's important. It's worth being intentional for.
Yes. And I take it even a step further. And I tell everybody that today we have to fight. We have to fight for the right to move, because the entire environment is set up in a way to prevent us from moving. It's not given to us. Imagine you work from home. You're supposed to be sitting there for 8 hours. and I know that especially in Europe is different, but in the US, you can't really walk everywhere, can you? Like,
not really. It's a little more challenging.
I have clients who tell me they have no sidewalks where they live, and it would be dangerous to go out. So that's a fight that we have on our hands, and we cannot expect to be given anything when it comes to movement. We have to stand up and say, okay, I'm going to stand up from my desk and take a walk every hour, or I'm going to go out of my way to get my 10K steps, and I'm going to fit it into my day, and I'm going to move my body, either lift weights, or my clients, when they start with me, they mostly do like body weight stuff in their home, because you have to begin somewhere. But I am going to be very, very intentional and clear, and I'm ready to fight for this, because it's like a human right, and you're not exercising it. Plus, I mean, let's not even talk about food.
It's hard to move, right?
and then you get the food delivered to your doorstep. So
yeah. The more you speak, the more I just think about how angry we should be. How angry we should be that we're in this space where we do have to fight to just move our bodies.
I think it's a movement. We should really create this movement where it's like fight for movement. And I think it's just phenomenal that there are so many of us out there that are really trying to, promote the well-being of people moving. And I do hope that it continues to empower people to take those little steps that, turning something into a habit is the hardest part. And once you do it, it just becomes easier and easier. Kim, so we just have a few minutes left. So looking back on your journey thus far, what would you say you're most proud of? And then looking ahead, what are you most excited for?
Oh, I'm proud of getting into competitive weightlifting at the tender age of 55. I started in a commercial gym with a personal trainer who said, "Do you want to try this?" And I said, "Why not?" My memories of this were like Olympic Games I watched with my dad, and they were like very overweight guys and weird leotards and hairy bellies. But I thought, why not? And I was hooked right away, because it's technique and strength. It's just amazing. It's extremely challenging. I totally sucked at it, and it's lifelong practice, and you have to get better all the time. But I loved it so much that I actually left the commercial gym, went to a weightlifting club, signed up there, which wasn't an easy decision, because I had all my friends in the gym. So that's something I'm proud of, that I just sort of followed that call. So that kind of gym, no music, no mirrors. It's just like really, a lot of iron, very raw, but like a family. Mm-hmm. And after 2 weeks, they said, "Oh, Kim, you're training here, so you want to compete?" And I said, "What?" And I said something that I would never say again today. I said, "Do you know how old I am?" So why the hell would I limit myself with my age? But at the time, it was like, competing, me? And then they say, "Yeah, of course, look at Mary over there. She's your age. She's competing." And I said, "Okay." And then I said, yes. I just said yes. And that's what I'm proud of, because that's a big step. And it's big because you put yourself in a challenging, scary situation. The weightlifting platform, they call your name, and then all eyes are on you. So many women my age feel invisible. And this is you're very visible. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's exhilarating, but it's also scary, because you might, you could fail the lift or whatever it is. Yeah. But it makes you feel alive. And it's just absolutely wonderful. That's awesome. And that's what I'm excited about too, because I'm going to Norway in June for the European Championship again. And, you start, it's sort of, there's a break over Christmas, and then in January you start training, and everything is sort of programmed to lead to that point in June where you're going to be at your top performance level, and it's super exciting.
And you've built a community there, it sounds like, too, right? You have friends there.
It's really like a family, and it's something that it could sometimes move me to tears too. Like, I go to, like last year, I went to Poland to the World Championships, really exciting. And then, we share the YouTube link on our club messaging group. And I'm in Poland, a 60-year-old woman lifting, weights in a competition. And here at home, there's guys like, some are 16, some are 30. They're watching the bloody YouTube feed to see me lift.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And then they say, "Well done, Kim, great." And they, they celebrate and they congratulate. And it's amazing. I'm so grateful for this. It's really like a family. And yeah, this is just wonderful.
So one more quick question. So your kids are all grown, 22, 23, 25. What do they think about you being this weightlifting competitor / champion? What's their thoughts on this?
I remember when I first started and they were still at home, and I started saying stuff like, I wanted to be a badass. They were laughing their head off. They go, yeah, Mom, that's cool. I know, just because you're drinking black coffee without milk and sugar, you're a badass. But now, last year I became a European champion, and they're mighty proud of their mom.
I bet.
That's really awesome.
I bet. And you're going to be able to be like, if they have kids, you're going to be able to pick their kids up, and you're going to be able to run in the park and all the things that you want to be able to do.
Pick their kids up. She can pick her own kids up.
I know.
Oh my gosh, right?
Exactly.
So Kim, you're in Spain, but obviously you train women around the world. How can people reach out to you if they want to, potentially use you as a coach? Your website, all the things that people can do to get a hold of you.
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to my website, which is kimrahir.com. And on there, there's a free health and strength assessment that you can take to find out exactly that, that point where you are at and know what the next best steps are. And it's not only a strength assessment. So I'm not only asking, can you do push-ups or stuff? It's like a very holistic, because that's also very important in midlife to have a view of the entire life situation of a woman. So you can go there at kimrahir.com, take that assessment, find out, what your next best steps would be. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Kim Rahir, where I share my weightlifting adventures and do a lot of fun trainings and challenges and tips and try to make it enjoyable and entertaining.
And you're on Instagram too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's also with my name, Kim Rahir.
Perfect. Okay.
That's exciting. I'm going to go watch all your videos. What's your favorite lift real quick? Like because you're doing powerlifting, right?
No, it's Olympic weightlifting is just 2 lifts. There's a snatch and a clean and jerk. And if I have to just decide, I'm going to say it's the snatch, because it's the more technical one. So it challenges you more.
That's awesome. Well, Kim, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. You have such a journey, and it's been so exciting to learn all the amazing stuff that you're not only doing to better yourself, but that you're doing to better, women and really empower them. And, I personally appreciate it. And so much of what you said resonates with, how I view health and wellness. So that's been really exciting. So I know Jenny and I are so happy that we have gotten the opportunity to dive deeper into your journey today.
And you've got 2 more fans. Well, and a bunch more, hopefully, that listen to this. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm cheering you on.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun. It's like, finding kindred spirits at the other side of the world.
I love it.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep being you and keep being badass.